Welcome to Youth Apprenticeship Mentor Training. My name is Lynn April. I'm the Regional Director of the CESA 8 Youth Apprenticeship Consortium, and I'm going to talk to you today about your role as a mentor to a youth apprentice. If you would like to follow along in the slides, I have the bit.ly on this first slide. If you follow that link, you can have access to all of the slides and the explanations under the slides so that you can go back and get additional information after this presentation is done. All right, so welcome to Youth Mentorship Training. We are going to be taking a look today at what the YA program is all about here in the state of Wisconsin and how you can help by being a mentor. This module has been developed to provide tips and strategies to mentors in the workplace in order to help you create a positive experience for the students working in your business. If you would like more information about youth apprenticeship, specifically in the CESA 8 region, you can follow this link to our website, and there is a ton of additional information on our website. So Youth Apprenticeship integrates school-based and work-based learning to instruct students in employability and occupation skills defined by Wisconsin industries. Local programs provide training based on statewide youth apprenticeship curriculum guidelines endorsed by business and industry. So you can see in this slide the basic framework of our YA program. So we have industry developed skills standards, and we'll take a look at what those look like. You should have received or will be receiving from me a booklet of exactly what the skill standards are for the specific student that you are working with. It provides exposure to multiple aspects of the industry. Skilled mentors are assigned to train the students, and there can be more than one mentor assigned for that student during their experience. So all mentors who are working with the student should watch this training video. Students are given paid on-the-job work experience. They also have related classroom instruction concurrent with that work-based learning. So every student is taking at least one class per semester that goes along with the learning that they're doing on the job. There is performance evaluation of the demonstrated competencies, and at the end of their program, students will be given a state-issued skill certificate. There are two different levels of the program. Level ones are juniors or seniors who are doing this for the very first year. They can begin as early as June after their sophomore year. During that time, they need to put in 450 hours of work-based learning. 200 of those hours can be during the summer. The other 250 hours have to be during the school year. And again, students are going to be taking one semester of related classroom instruction each semester that they are on the job. If there are juniors or seniors that are continuing in the program for a second year, I'm not exactly sure how juniors would be level 2, but seniors certainly can be. They will get 900 hours of work-based learning during 2 school years, and they will have 4 semesters of related classroom instruction during that time. All of that must be completed by the time of their high school graduation. The youth apprenticeship areas are chosen from the 16 career clusters. I believe it's 11 of the 16 career clusters right now have skills-based checklists for youth apprenticeship. So the areas that we find youth apprenticeship opportunities include agriculture, food and natural resources, architecture and construction, art, AV, technology and communications, finance and health science. That should be 2 separate things, so I will be fixing that. Hospitality, lodging and tourism, information technology, manufacturing, marketing, STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, and transportation, distribution, and logistics. So that's where you would find things, for example, about automotive programs. There are a number of benefits to employers for being part of the Youth Apprenticeship Program. It was designed with the needs of employers in mind. Employers have expressed concern that the education system has not adequately prepared young people with the work readiness and technical skills necessary to meet their business needs. So by working with the Youth Apprenticeship Program, you can make an investment in young people in your community. You will have a dependable recruitment pipeline to an entry-level workforce that can be used to increase workforce diversity and provide supervisory opportunities for your staff. You'll be directly involved in the economic development efforts of your community, as well as become a part of the creation of highly skilled workers, an excellent point in any public relations marketing. It's a unique opportunity and added incentive for participation in the Youth Apprenticeship Program for both the employer and the student is that the competencies are directly aligned with Wisconsin and national occupational skill standards. Employers also play an active role in improving the quality of the future workforce by helping develop skill standards geared to industry needs. There are certain legal requirements of youth apprenticeship. Work permits used to be required by students at the age of 16, but now there is not a requirement in Wisconsin for any student who is age 16 or above as of June 23rd, 2017. And because youth apprenticeship is for juniors and seniors, all of those students will be at least 16 years of age. Youth apprentices and their employers work out their schedules, ensuring that students may continue working toward high school graduation and school board policies are followed. Wisconsin no longer limits the number of hours which a student ages 16 and 17 may work. It all depends on how free that particular student's schedule is, keeping in mind their classes and extracurricular activities. As employers or employees, youth apprentices have to be paid at least the minimum wage, although many of our youth apprentice businesses pay more than minimum wage. And as far as workers' compensation, youth apprentices are covered by their employers' workers' compensation insurance policies. Workers' compensation rates are not affected by the age of the employees, but rather the industry in which the employer operates. Unemployment insurance benefits. If a youth apprentice is enrolled full-time in an educational institution and receives school credit for their participation in the YA program, which is true of all of our youth apprentices, they are not eligible to file for unemployment insurance benefits from their YA employer. And there are certain student learner laws in place for youth apprentices. They are considered student learners, which allows them to perform some work that would otherwise be off limits to minors. So there's more information on this slide. You must comply with all state child labor laws as an employer, as outlined in the student learner law. It is up to you to review the guidelines to fully understand your student workers' parameters as it pertains to what the student can work on, the number of hours they can work, their liability, and prohibited equipment and tasks. All of that information can be found at the DWD website, which is linked on this particular slide. So some highlights of youth apprenticeship. Students who participate in supervised work-based learning programs are exposed to the world of work. They network with professionals, and they develop positive social skills. The Wisconsin labor market trends indicate that there are 925,000 new jobs which will be opening up in the next 4 years. You need the help of industry, of our youth apprentices to place them in the careers and make sure that they are sustainable and respond to labor demands. Students who complete a work-based learning program and graduate from high school are more likely to successfully complete their post-secondary education in either a 2-year associate program or a 4-year bachelor's degree program. And many youth apprenticeships also lead to enrollment in adult apprenticeship programs like the registered apprenticeship program through our technical colleges, trade schools, or certification programs. We can see that at this time, we have 22,363 youth apprentices out working in the state of Wisconsin, and that is with over 10,000 unique employers. So there are a number of employers that have more than one youth apprentice. The 3 top career clusters in which our youth apprentices reside right now are in manufacturing, health science, and the agriculture, food, and natural resources areas. Every different career cluster has a unique work-based skills checklist that the student has to follow while they're on the job. If you go to the DWD website, and I'll just jump there for a second, you will see this one is going specifically into manufacturing, but if I back up, there is a checklist available for each of the different career clusters which are offered in youth apprenticeship. So if I go back to the manufacturing, we can go to the skills standards checklist, and you can see there that it will download that checklist for us. And if we open that up, it starts with information, and this sheet should look very familiar because this is what is going to be at the very beginning of the booklet you get from me when you hire a youth apprentice. So it will have your student's youth apprentice name, their student ID number, the YA coordinator and consortium, their school district and graduation date. Every different area has some core skills and safety skills that every student has to accomplish. And then from there, they have different units that they can choose within a number of pathways. For in manufacturing, for example, every student in manufacturing is going to do those core skills and safety skills and manufacturing fundamentals, but then each student would choose from there. And here it tells us that for a level 1, they're going to do at least one unit. So they might do their work in assembly and packaging or manufacturing processes, machining, welding, production operations management, basic industrial skill equipment, or advanced industrial equipment, which would probably be for those level 2 students. And then if you go to that particular checklist, you'll see all of the different core skills that you have to sign off for this particular student, all the safety skills, and the manufacturing fundamentals. And then every different pathway unit has its own checklist of skills that a student has to accomplish while they are employed with you for that 450 hours. There is an accompanying explanation document that goes with every single one of these skills. So you will get all of that in the packet that you receive from me when a student signs up for youth apprenticeship with your company. So you never have to wonder what it means when it says that you are grading a student on selecting tools and materials. There's a page that tells you exactly what that means and what skills to look for under that particular overall skill. So everything is very clearly laid out by the DWD as far as what you have to follow for those students. So now I will move this and go back to our PowerPoint. But if you have any questions about anything with youth apprenticeship, the DWD website is a great place to start. So youth apprenticeship mentors are really the key to effective youth apprenticeship. They are the critical element to the success of a youth apprenticeship student. They advise youth on career directions and opportunities. They provide professional networks for students and help to expand the students' career goals. They provide support, encouragement, direction, and knowledge. They teach the student what they need to know about a particular profession. They look for strengths in the student's performance and give them feedback. They set a good example for students and provide positive learning opportunities. They develop and maintain effective communication methods with the students and also with the youth apprenticeship coordinator, both the local coordinator and the regional coordinator. And they act as a positive role model for students in youth apprenticeship. So we're going to look at some of those aspects of being a mentor. So first of all, some things to think about if you've been asked to be a mentor for a youth apprentice. Think back to when you started your job. Were you nervous when you began your new job? Did you have an adult that helped you learn your job? Were you given any feedback as you learned new skills in your job? Did you receive safety instructions? Did someone share an employee handbook with you? Did you know where to go when you had a question? If you can say yes to any of those things, then you already know why a mentor is really needed by youth apprentices. Think about how long it took you to really be productive in the tasks that you were given as a new employee. And think about how people helped you as you had that new role. Those are the things that you're going to be doing as a youth mentor. So are you youth mentor material? These are the kinds of qualities we look for in youth mentors for youth apprenticeship. That you want to help others. You will need to be willing to spend time helping someone else to understand aspects of work life, and the skills required for tasks, and be available to generally provide information, guidance, and act as a sounding board. You need to have a positive mindset and be approachable in order to encourage questions, and students will have a lot of questions when they start these jobs. You need to show empathy and ensure that the mentee or the youth apprentice understands that you are supportive and were once in their position, so you understand their concerns and challenges. You need to understand what motivates development and personal growth. Through continuing your own personal development, you become a role model for others on the journey of career development. To help others develop, you need to value your own development and promote through role modeling the idea of being a lifelong learner. And you need to have confidence with the ability to offer feedback and challenge your mentee in a way that is non-threatening and helps them to look at situations from different perspectives. So here's some tips on being a good mentor. Good mentors ask the right questions. It's useful as a mentor to ask questions that enable your mentee to do the thinking. One way to achieve this is to think of what you want to tell the mentee and then find a question that will help the mentee come to the same conclusion. Open questions are critical here. You want to observe progress. You will need to be able to objectively observe their skills and abilities being implemented and provide feedback on these so that during the times that we come to have discussions about those checklists that we saw on the DWD website, you can give information on exactly where your student is in their progress. You want to be motivating and encouraging, ensuring that through your support, the mentee is motivated toward their learning and feels supported, even when things are not going as well as they may hope. You need to listen actively. This involves attentively listening, not only to what is said by your youth apprentice, but also the way it is said in terms of tone, body language, and perhaps what is not said. Showing that you are listening is an invaluable skill. It shows that you value that person's view and that you will not interrupt them. This requires patience, practice, and time. You need to provide feedback. Feedback is critical to ensure that the mentee understands the progress they're making and areas for further development. It should be delivered objectively and supported by specific task-based evidence to make it tangible. You need to notice. A key to good mentoring may be merely noticing how the apprentice is. Sometimes this may be more of what is not said than what is said. Are there any changes in their motivation, commitment, attendance, and so forth that may need support and discussion? There may be subtle indicators that the apprentice has an issue with work or interpersonal relationships that with support they can overcome. And you need to agree on future goals and targets. In order to understand how to progress to the next stage, the mentee needs help with setting specific, measurable, achievable goals that are realistic and time-bound, and then recording these in some form of action plan to enable you together to review progress against these at the next opportunity. So when you're first beginning as a YA mentor, you're going to really have two steps. First, you're going to make sure that there is very complete onboarding for your youth apprentice. This is going to involve making sure to provide students with an employee handbook, just like any other employee at your business, and ensuring that they understand the rules and regulations at your business, reviewing parking requirements, reviewing any dress code policy, including piercings and tattoos, reviewing with them a check-in and check-out or check-on process, reviewing payroll information and pay dates, any sick day notification or work schedule changes. This is especially significant because students are obviously also going to be involved in events at school. So it's good right from the very beginning to talk about how you're going to handle things when they come up at school. If a student is sick, how that's going to be handled as far as notifying the business to make sure that you know that that student isn't coming in. You should review work structure, when lunches, when breaks should be taken, how long those should be. Review a cell phone policy. This also is really significant for students because every different school district has different rules with regard to cell phones. If having cell phones on their person is not a big deal at your business, that's something important for students to know. But if it's a huge deal, that's also really significant for students to know. There are many of our businesses that do not allow cell phones to be used on the shop floor at all. If that's the case, those students need to know what that policy is and where is appropriate place would be for them to keep their phones during work hours. You should provide a tour of the facility and identify areas that they should or should not enter or that they need permission to access. Please show them where bathrooms, lunchrooms, and break rooms are located. You should introduce the students to as many employees as possible so the student is recognized and welcomed throughout the company. Encourage employees to start conversations with the student on topics like athletics, community service, hobbies, clubs, activities, and volunteer experiences. and review for the student any safety, health, and emergency procedures. A second step is a little more specific action items for you as a youth apprenticeship mentor. So you should develop a training plan with your student, especially looking at those skills checklists, which will allow them to experience and learn all of the different aspects of the job, and especially those skills that you know you're going to need to score by the end of the year. You should establish a set work schedule. So to be sure to ask the student about important school-related events like homecoming, prom, exams, sporting events, vacations, anything that would affect their schedule outside of their work life. And then provide them with important business dates like closure dates, company picnics or cookouts, team bonding events, and various training dates. You should evaluate their performance, could be once a quarter. The CESA 8 Youth Apprenticeship Consortium is requiring 3 different meetings with the youth apprentice, the youth apprenticeship mentor, the regional coordinator, and the local YA coordinator. The first one is going to be more introductory, and then twice during the year, probably around the January timeframe, and again in May, you will be actually scoring that student based on their skills checklist and employability skills. So a performance review will be done at those meetings. You should monitor the hours of youth apprenticeship student and report again 3 times during the year where that student is with regard to their 450 hours to make sure that they're on track by the time that they are done with the school year. You should schedule regular meeting dates to review performance questions and learning opportunities. So certainly don't wait for the 3 meetings that we're having as a youth apprenticeship consortium. Feel free to schedule much more regular meetings with your student before that time. And then maintain student worker records. So as your mentorship progresses, there's some things that you're going to want to keep in mind and do with your youth apprentice. One is to model effective communication. So communication skills are a #1 rated job skill employers are looking for. This either, if it's not #1, it's always very high on the list. So we want to make sure that we're modeling as mentors good, effective communication skills for our students. So with speaking and listening, we have to be willing to listen to our young person, explain complex concepts to a beginner, empathize with the student who may be dealing with multiple stressors at school or at home. We need to ask questions, which are a huge part of communication at the workplace. Asking questions immediately when something comes up, using teachable moments, which are often created by asking questions and allowing students to clarify. If possible, modeling with students, writing and analyzing their written work, using professional language and being clear and concise. If creating emails, for example, is something you need to do as part of your job, helping students to understand what's appropriate to follow for professional language in that kind of communication. And then gesturing and interpreting body language. 60 to 70% of nonverbal communication is derived from our body language. So it's really important to model that to students. What is effective body language? And to always be thinking about, what is my facial expression and body language saying right now? You want to provide effective training. So you want to ask questions and make sure you understand what the student already knows and what their needs are. You want to explain tasks in detail and the importance of the task so that the student understands why they are doing this particular thing. Then you want to demonstrate the task, allow the students to ask questions, and then try the task under your supervision. And then even if the student has that task down and they're doing it independently, you want to continually check for progress and offer feedback. In that feedback that you provide to youth, you want to keep some key points in mind. You want to state the reason for any constructive criticism, and please do keep any criticism as constructive as possible, thinking about your tone and your word choice. You want to describe specifically what you're seeing and give examples of that behavior or the skill. You want to state your reactions. Then you want to provide the student with an opportunity to respond to what you've seen to see if there's any misunderstanding. You want to agree on what the corrective action is for this particular activity. Then conclude with a positive statement so the student knows that you believe they can accomplish this. Provide praise or expressions of approval, especially when you see improvement. Invite students to give you feedback as you are progressing, and deliver feedbacks to students in a timely manner. So if you see something that needs to be corrected, please go through these key points as quickly as possible after you've observed something that needs to be corrected, rather than waiting longer and allowing that miscommunication, for example, to become a habit. You want to assist students in setting SMART goals. So as you are conferencing with students and giving students feedback, creating SMART goals is a great way for them to grow in their youth apprenticeship experience. So SMART goals are specific, making your goals focused and identify the tangible outcome of a particular goal. You want to make it measurable. So you should have some clear definition of success and a way to measure that the student is actually progressing. You want the goal to be attainable. Challenging, you want to introduce new learning, but you want to make sure that it's reasonable for a student to achieve. You want to make it relevant, so this should be directly related to the skills the student is learning in their youth apprenticeship, and it directly relates to what they're doing as part of their job. And you want it to be time bound, so every goal needs a target date. So as you create SMART goals with students, you want to establish that, within the next 2 weeks, this is what we're going to try. So at the end of 2 weeks, that is our time limit. And then we're going to sit down and have a conversation about how things are going. You want to build self-esteem and recognition with students. Student workers will increase their self-esteem and gain a sense of competence by taking on new challenges and then succeeding in them. When they complete a task or a project correctly and reach the goal that they've been seeking, the student will gain a real sense of pride in their capabilities. So be sure to recognize those completions and accomplishments and make learning experiences as positive and clear as possible. If a conflict does occur, you want to teach students correct conflict resolution. This is definitely something that I think all employees can benefit from today. So we want to make sure that if some kind of conflict arises, we're going through these steps. So we want to explore what the reasons are for the conflict. We want to identify destructive and constructive reactions to that particular conflict. We want to list all the results that will occur if the conflict is settled. So it might depend on those reactions, that if you react in this way, here is going to be the result. But if you have a different reaction, that result could change. And then you want to talk about resolution, selecting the best resolution for all that are involved to make sure that this conflict is resolved. Some things to keep in mind. You're working with a new generation of students, so you may be used to working in your particular place of business with baby boomers or Gen Xers, Gen Y, who are also called millennials, but the new students that are out in the workforce, this is Gen Z. So we need to keep in mind that these are not millennials. They have different needs and expectations, and we need to think about those. So when we look at the baby boomer world, this chart, for example, I love this chart. I love things that are clearly organized, and this is the baby boomer world. We were very used to putting everything in a very neat order, in logical steps, in progressions. So we knew exactly through this chart where we need to go if we have a question about something. And everything is very neatly laid out. But that is not the world that Gen Z has grown up in. This is the Gen Z world, where everything is interconnected in a myriad of different ways. And there aren't necessarily logical progressions to anything. So that's something we need to keep in mind about the students that we're working with. For Gen Z, they have different factors that they look at when you ask them what they look at as far as success in their life and in their careers. 75% of them say that earning a high salary is going to mean success for them. 69% want to be happy with who they are. And that same number, 69%, also want to be in good physical condition. 60% of them want to be able to do what they enjoy as their career. So they're going to be looking to make connections between what they're doing on the job and if those are things that they enjoy doing. And 56% of them want to graduate from a reputable college or university eventually. This is an area we're definitely changing our messaging about, because students have so many more opportunities, different opportunities than they have had previously for being successful. And that doesn't necessarily mean going directly into a four-year college. For many of our students, they can have that success by first getting a job, or by going for some certifications, or maybe that two-year degree at a technical college. But lifelong learning is what we are going to message to these students, because they have ways where they can be achieving that college degree, for example, with much less debt by working with employers in order to continue to take those classes and work on those certifications and those diplomas as they go along. So that's something from at the school level that we're definitely messaging to students and parents, are that there are many different pathways today for students to reach success. And being a lifelong learner is very important, but they don't necessarily have to jump immediately from the high school to that four-year degree. They might find some other very successful pathways to get that degree eventually. So some things to keep in mind as far as motivating teenagers, things that teenagers like to hear when they are engaging with you, and if you want them to have a positive and successful experience, things that you might want to think about. What's in it for me? Students need to know that what they're being asked to do has an effect on them. So make that connection explicit for them. Can they be involved? So students, the Gen Z really loves to have their opinions be heard, and they like to be included in the team. So are there ways that you can involve them in decision-making at your business, at least in the areas that they're working in, where they then have that direct connection to what's being done in the work world? They need goals that are attainable and achievable. So we talked about that with SMART goals, that they can't be so pie in the sky that students don't think that they can ever achieve them. Try to set goals together with them that you know they actually can achieve. And then once they've achieved that goal, move on to the next step. They like feeling connected with others. So again, having that interaction with other employees, as many other employees as possible at your place of work, is really important. Having them be involved in fun activities that your employees are experiencing would be a great way to help them feel connected with others. Gen Z loves to contribute and feel like their work is making a difference, so help them see the big picture, that they might have this particular job and it doesn't seem like it has a big impact, but help them to see what the end product is at your particular place of business and how that impacts people in the real world. They like to have humor and fun. So if there's a way that, if there are times that you can have a fun work environment, that would be great. And of course, money and incentives, because this is a paid position, that is going to be motivating to teenagers. Another thing to keep in mind, everybody learns differently. So be aware of different learning styles, and that can help you when you're teaching a new skill or a task to students. You may want to teach and provide information to your student worker using several different methods. Students learn better and more quickly if the teaching method used matches their preferred learning style. Students should be aware of their learning style. They actually have a program that they use at school called Zello, where they have already done an interest inventory that has told them what their learning style is. So check in with your youth apprentice and see whether they were aligned with visual learning or auditory learning or kinesthetic learning, and see which of those works best with your youth apprenticeship, and then try to use that learning style as much as possible as they're achieving new skills. And last but not least, keep in mind that mistakes will happen. And students need to understand they're not going to do everything in this new job perfectly the first time. None of us did that when we started our jobs. They won't be doing it either. So they need to know that anyone who has never made a mistake, hasn't tried anything new, that, reassure them that mistakes are going to happen and they're going to become more proficient with their tasks, but it's going to take some time, and you're going to be there to support them as they are learning all of these new skills. So to put it all together, as a mentor, the most important things you're going to do are to put your student at ease. You're going to motivate them to do their best. You're going to build learners' interest in your particular industry or field or occupation. And you're going to know your youth apprenticeship student will be on a steep learning curve to start. but with your guidance and feedback, they will soon be an independent worker and will be an asset to your business. So if you have any questions or concerns, you have a local YA coordinator at your school district that the student is enrolled at. You also have me as your regional YA coordinator, and my contact information is on the bottom of the screen. As I stated before, we will have a minimum of 3 contact times where we will sit down with you as the mentor and your youth apprentice and the local YA coordinator and me as the regional coordinator, and we will talk about the program, we'll talk about the skills checklist, and make sure that everybody is on the same page. So if there are any questions that come up in between those meetings, please make sure that you reach out. And thank you so much for being a mentor for our high school students. We could not do the Youth Apprenticeship program without your involvement. So thanks so much. And I will now stop the recording.